In the fading echoes of World War II, as the Third Reich crumbled into ash, the Allies turned their fury on the architects of Hitler's terror. Justice demanded death for the Nazis' worst. Men like Joachim von Ribbentrop, Ernst Kaltenbrunner, and Amon Göth, guards of the regime's darkest deeds. But what unfolded at their executions wasn't the swift reckoning the world expected. These weren't clean endings. They were brutal, botched nightmares that turned stomachs even among hardened soldiers. Ropes too short, drops misjudged, attempts repeated. These were spectacles of revenge gone gruesomely wrong, leaving witnesses haunted by the chaos. So come with us as we uncover the stomach-churning fates of these Nazi guards. Fates so horrific, they defy belief. But first, welcome to Through the Ages, where we uncover history's darkest secrets. Before we dive into these grisly tales, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to join the millions uncovering the untold truths they don't want you to know. By 1945, the Allies had crushed Nazi Germany, and the hunt for its masterminds was relentless. The Nuremberg Trials and Polish courts sentenced Hitler's top lieutenants to hang. Men who'd orchestrated invasions, run death squads, and terrorized millions. Joachim von Ribbentrop, the slick foreign minister who brokered the Nazi-Soviet pact. Ernst Kaltenbrunner, the towering Gestapo chief behind the Einsatzgruppen. And Amon Göth, the sadistic Płaszów commandant who shot prisoners for sport. They weren't just cogs in the machine, they were its vicious heart. The gallows awaited them, a symbol of justice for a world scarred by their crimes. But what should have been a precise, dignified end spiraled into something else. Executions so mangled, so grotesque, that they mirrored the chaos these men had sown. Allied soldiers, reporters, even executioners recoiled as ropes failed and bodies twisted, turning punishment into a horror show no one could unsee. First came Ribbentrop, Hitler's diplomatic puppet, who faced the noose at Nuremberg on October 16, 1946. As the clock struck 1:11 a.m., he stepped into the gym-turned-execution chamber, his final words a plea. God protect Germany. U.S. executioner John C. Woods, a man who'd boasted of hanging skills, promised a quick drop, but he botched it. The rope was too short, the fall too shallow. Ribbentrop's neck didn't snap. Instead, reporter Kingsbury Smith watched in horror as he strangled for 20 agonizing minutes, his face purpling, his body swaying like a grotesque pendulum. Smith's account, scribbled for the world, captured the gasps, the choking, the slow fade of a man who'd helped unleash a global war. Woods later grinned, "I hanged those 10 Nazis, and I'm proud." But witnesses called it a nightmare, a fitting, some whispered, for a diplomat whose deals doomed millions. Yet this was just the beginning of the gallows' grim failures. Don't miss what happens next. Hit subscribe now. Next up was Ernst Kaltenbrunner, the 6'4" Gestapo titan who'd overseen the Holocaust's machinery. That same Nuremberg night, he followed Ribbentrop to the scaffold, his icy denials of Auschwitz's horrors still ringing in the courtroom. Woods, unfazed by his first fumble, misjudged again. Kaltenbrunner's giant frame didn't fit the drop. His neck stayed intact, and he suffocated for 10 to 15 minutes, a slow, jerking death that left blood trickling from his mouth. British officer R.S.M. O'Neill, assisting Woods, later muttered it was a mess no one could unsee, his words echoing the disgust of those packed into the dim chamber. Kaltenbrunner had sent countless to gas chambers with cold efficiency, but his own end was anything but. A brutal, botched struggle that turned the executioner's art into a sickening farce. The Allies wanted justice, but what they got was a scene as savage as the crimes he'd committed. Then there was Amon Göth, the Płaszów butcher whose cruelty stunned even his SS peers. On September 13, 1946, in Kraków, Poland, this monster, known for sniping prisoners from his balcony, faced Polish justice. Survivor Helen Jonas, who'd endured his terror, watched as he smirked, defiant, stepping to the gallows. But the Polish executioner faltered. The first rope snapped, dropping Göth to the ground. The second attempt slipped, the noose failing to hold. On the third try, after tense minutes of adjustments, he finally hanged, his body twitching as a crowd of survivors cheered. A Polish guard later growled, "It took 3 goes to shut that monster up," a bitter satisfaction lacing his words. Göth's reign of sadism, immortalized in Schindler's List, met a messy, brutal end, a botched execution that dragged out his punishment in a way his victims could only have dreamed. What the executioners saw next defied belief. The gallows had become a stage for chaos. These botched executions weren't just failures of technique. They were a grim mirror to the Nazis' own reign of disorder. Ribbentrop's slow choke, Kaltenbrunner's grotesque struggle, Göth's triple failure. They left a mark on everyone who watched. Kingsbury Smith's pen trembled as he wrote of Ribbentrop's purpled face. O'Neill's stomach turned at Kaltenbrunner's bloodied end. Jonas and the Krakow crowd held their breath through Göth's drawn-out demise. Was this revenge taken too far? A clumsy echo of Nazi brutality staining the Allies' hands? Or was it a fitting punishment, messy, painful, unrelenting, for men who'd shown no mercy? The stench of death lingered in those execution chambers, a final, twisted chapter in their legacy of terror. These weren't the clean cuts of justice the world craved. They were horrors that tested the limits of retribution, leaving a question hanging as heavy as the bodies themselves. Had the Allies matched the savagery they sought to end? Hence, the executions of these Nazi guards stand as a fractured testament to a war's end, a justice sought but stumbled over in execution. From Nuremberg's gym to Krakow's gallows, the Allies aimed to close the book on Hitler's henchmen, but the ropes told a different story. Ribbentrop's 20-minute nightmare, Kaltenbrunner's giant ordeal, Göth's 3-try finale, they weren't just deaths. They were spectacles of human failure, botched beyond belief. These men had orchestrated genocide, war, and terror on a scale unimaginable, yet their ends were as chaotic as their crimes. The witnesses, soldiers, reporters, survivors carried those images to their graves, a reminder that even in victory, the line between justice and horror blurs. As we look back, these brutal, botched executions challenge us. Were they punishment enough, or a dark reflection of the evil they fought? Now, if we ask you, which botched fate shocked you most? Ribbentrop's slow choke, Kaltenbrunner's bloody struggle, or Göth's triple failure? Tell us in the comments section below. To uncover more dark truths they don't want you to know, make sure to hit that subscribe button.